These are all of the hubs in my smart home. First off, we have my main hubs. Apple HomePod here in the living room. We also have an Apple TV, which acts as a HomeKit hub, also in the living room. HomePod in the office. HomePod in the bedroom. Next up, we have my Raspberry Pi that's running Homebridge. This allows me to connect non-HomeKit devices to Apple HomeKit. It also has this Zigbee antenna plugged into it, so I could connect generic Zigbee devices to my HomeKit setup as well. The Aqara G4 Camera Hub. This is just a really good smart camera and allows me to connect to all my different Aqara sensors. All the other hubs are hidden in this void in my living room where I shamefully have all my internet cables. Let's dive in there. Philips Hue Hub allows me to connect to my Philips Hue bulbs and Philips Hue remotes. And lastly, my favorite device in my smart home, my Lutron Hub that allows me to connect to my Lutron light switches. They're the most reliable smart devices I own. And that's all the hubs I have. Everything in my smart home is connected through HomeKit, and if it's not connected through a hub, it's connected natively through HomeKit through either Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Thread, or Matter. And it all works really well. I like it a lot. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Let's talk about smart home hubs. Should you get a hub? Which one should you get? Should you stay away from them? This is actually not a super straightforward conversation because people use the word hub to describe two very different things in a smart home ecosystem. I'm about to teach you what those are. You're about to learn a lot about smart home in a really short amount of time here. So let's start with talking about your main type of hub. This is what I'm going to call your primary hub. This is something like an Apple HomePod for your HomeKit ecosystem, maybe an Amazon Echo for your Alexa device, or a Google Home device. The main and only goal of your primary hub is to be the central place that all of your devices can connect to, so you control them from one single app and place. Your primary hub also allows you to control your devices when you're not home because your smart home devices are connected to your hub and not your phone. You're pretty much always going to need a primary hub, and you should get one to get all that functionality I just talked about, and it's always going to be one of those main devices for your ecosystem. Again, Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or a HomePod. Any of those are going to be your primary hubs, and again, you should always have one. But now let's talk about secondary hubs, and this is where things get kind of confusing. So secondary hubs are things like this. This is a Philips Hue hub. Now, even though people call these hubs, their main purpose is to adapt devices to be compatible with your smart home. Think of them more as adapters than you do hubs. These hubs are required for cases like in the Philips Hue bulbs where they use a non-standard wireless connection. Your regular hubs, like your HomePods and your Google Homes, they use Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to connect to smart home devices, but when something like these Hue bulbs, which use Zigbee, which is just a proprietary wireless connection, those bulbs cannot connect directly to your main hub, so you can't use your main hub to control them. Instead, what you do is you take one of these secondary hubs, again, think of it just as an adapter. The device will connect to the hub, and then this hub, the hub itself, connects to your main hub. Literally, all these hubs are doing are acting as a means to connect the devices you want to your parent hub if they're not natively adaptable. Another great example of this is the Aqara ecosystem. They mostly focus on sensors, so like these water leak sensors, door opening sensors, motion sensors. Those are really low power devices that again use Zigbee, so they can't connect directly to your smart home. So the devices themselves connect to the Aqara hub, which in this case is a camera, and this hub then exposes those devices to your parent hub where you control all of your smart home. Again, all this is doing is adapting the devices that you want to use to be able to connect to your parent smart home. Aqara is an example where this whole thing gets kind of messy because sometimes the companies that have these secondary hubs try to be their own primary hub, where Aqara has so many devices that they're trying to force themselves into being their own ecosystem. However, when you're thinking about it in terms of your smart home and trying to set it up in the most efficient way possible, you always want to think of anything that's not your primary hub, the primary place you run your smart home. Again, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Apple HomeKit. Every other hub you look at is just going to be an adapter for the devices you want to bring over. Anyway, long story short, what hub should you buy? For your primary hub, you should always make sure you're using one of the main ecosystem's devices, like I said, and the only reason you should add a secondary hub, it's not to do anything crazy functionality-wise. You want to do all your parent control through your smart home. It's only there if the device you want to add to your smart home requires it as a means to connect it. Secondary hubs also aren't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of the times the reason they're using these special wireless protocols is because they're a lot more reliable. For example, the Lutron smart switches that I use, they use a hub, and they are by far one of the most reliable devices in my smart home, far more reliable than anything that's Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. That is everything you need to know about hubs. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you in the next video.